Today, we're diving into something that affects millions of older adults, and a lot of times neither they nor their families have any idea it's happening. We're talking about a hidden risk to brain health that could be lurking in some very, very common medications. This quote from DailyCaring.com really just cuts right to the chase. It's a pretty unsettling question, right? But it's also a really important one. What if the very things that are supposed to be helping are actually causing harm? Well, today, we're going to play detective and see what could be going on inside your own medicine cabinet. You know, when you start noticing some changes in a loved one, maybe a little confusion or they're forgetting things more often, it's so easy to jump to conclusions. You start wondering, is this just, part of getting older, or could it be the start of something more serious like dementia? The answer, as we're about to find out, might be hiding in plain sight.
So where does the answer often lie? Well, it's frequently with a specific class of drugs. They've got a long, scientific-sounding name, but trust me, the idea behind them is pretty simple. We're talking about something called anticholinergics.
Okay, so what in the world does that actually mean? Well, anticholinergics are basically drugs that get in the way of a really important chemical messenger in our brain. That chemical is called acetylcholine, and it's absolutely crucial for learning and memory. And here's the kicker. As we get older, our brains naturally make less of this stuff, which makes older adults way more sensitive to any drug that blocks the little bit they have left.
I love this analogy from Daily Caring because it makes it so easy to picture. Just think of acetylcholine as these tiny little brain messengers that are constantly zipping around, delivering critical instructions for things like remembering a name or even just moving a muscle. So you can really see the effect right here. In a healthy brain, those messengers get their messages through, no problem. The instructions are delivered. But when you introduce anticholinergic drugs, it's like throwing up a roadblock. The messengers get blocked, the instructions get lost in transit, and the result can be confusion, brain fog, and serious memory problems.
So which drugs are we actually talking about here? This is where things get really surprising, because a lot of these aren't some obscure, rare prescriptions. They're common medications that millions and millions of people use every single day. But before we name names, just look at this number for a second. According to a major study, taking these drugs long-term, or at high doses, was linked to a 54% higher risk of developing dementia. So this isn't just about some temporary confusion. We are talking about a significant long-term risk.
And here they are, some of the most common culprits. The active ingredient in really popular sleep aids, like Tylenol PM, and allergy meds like Benadryl, it's called diphenhydramine, and it's a strong anticholinergic. Same goes for doxylamine, which you'll find in other sleep aids. These are things you can just walk into a store and buy right off the shelf. Now, this isn't just some random list we're pulling out of thin air. This information is all backed by a super respected resource in medicine called the AGS criteria. It's basically the gold standard, the go-to guide for doctors trying to figure out which medications might be risky for older adults.
And the list goes way, way beyond just sleep aids. The Beers criteria also flags a whole bunch of prescription drugs. We're talking about medications for overactive bladder, certain kinds of older antidepressants, muscle relaxants, even some treatments for Parkinson's disease. The list is pretty long, which is exactly why a full medication review is so critical. The thing is, the Beers criteria does a lot more than just point out these anticholinergic drugs. It shines a light on a whole ecosystem of medication risk, which just reinforces why sitting down with the doctor for a regular, thorough medication review is an absolute must for older adults.
For instance, the criteria warn about drugs that can actually make an existing health problem worse. Or, and this is a big one, dangerous combinations of different drugs. Think about this. Combining 3 or more drugs that act on the central nervous system, we're talking things like opioids, antidepressants, and benzodiazepines, can dramatically, and I mean dramatically, increase the risk of falls and fractures. It's a really complex web of interactions.
Okay, we've identified the problem, and that can feel a little overwhelming. But now, for the most important part, what can you actually do about it? Because knowing this stuff is great, but taking action is what really protects your loved one. So let's walk through a clear, simple plan.
First things first, and I cannot stress this enough. This is the #1 rule. Never, ever make changes on your own. This quote from Daily Caring says it perfectly. Suddenly stopping or changing a medication's dose can be incredibly dangerous and cause serious health problems. This has to be a conversation you have with the doctor. So here it is, your simple 3-step action plan to take control. Step 1, list. And I mean list everything, not just the prescriptions,
Every single over-the-counter pill, every vitamin, every herbal supplement. Get it all down on paper. Step 2, schedule. Make an appointment with the doctor specifically for a medication review. Don't try to squeeze this into a visit for something else. It needs its own dedicated time. And finally, step 3, ask. Go through that list with the doctor. Talk about the risks and benefits of each and everything, and ask if there are safer alternatives for any of the risky ones.
And that really brings us to the final and most powerful takeaway. This is the question to take with you to that doctor's appointment. By simply asking, is this medication still necessary, or is there a safer alternative, you stop being a bystander and become an active partner in protecting your loved one's brain health. It's such a simple question, but it's one that could truly change everything. Thanks for joining this explainer.